everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama. Welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
And today we're covering the superhero anime, The Reflection.
Now this is actually another anime co-created by Stan Lee and director Hiroshi Nakahama, Studio Dean, and Lee's POW Entertainment. And it centers around people who've been given mysterious powers from an event called The Reflection.
Yes,
and survivors gain superpowers, and that word is being used loosely.
Yes.
However, something more sinister with these powers is rising eventually.
But before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notifications, and future podcasts, and little pause videos.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast. It's going to be a real big surprise for you if you don't know. Thank you for subscribing and sharing our videos also. We appreciate you so much.
Yes.
Now, this series originally aired in July of 2017 through October of the same year, airing with 12 episodes. Thank goodness there were only 12.
Right.
And the genre was started as superhero.
Right.
And again, it's very loosely a superhero anime.
Yes.
And I learned about this one day just typing and asking, are there any anime superheroes to Bing, AI Bing? And this is one of the shows that popped up.
Yep. And luckily, sort of for us, that it was available on Crunchyroll, along with Heroman. We already said that we watched, as of that other podcast, a little bit of Heroman and enjoyed that much more than the manga. So I wanted to see, well, is there any other anime works that Stan Lee has done that we'll probably enjoy and take a look? So we found out about The Reflection, and decided, okay, let's see. It's supposed to be a much more serious superhero show, while Heroman was more lighthearted. It's like, okay, then let's see how it goes, because no one talks about it, never even heard of it. And then we watched it, and oh my gosh, it's probably one of the most boring superhero shows you could possibly watch. I am sorry, Stan Lee, this was not as good as it was hyped up to be in the description.
To make it worse, it was co-produced and streamed by Crunchyroll.
Oh, that explains a lot.
English dubbing by Funimation, and that was one of the only bright spots, because we heard Vic Mignogna.
Yes.
And got excited. Oh, Vic Mignogna's going to be in here. Well, barely.
Barely.
He was the star power. He was given the lead role of Exxon. No, I'm not kidding.
That is the name.
And he really didn't have many lines. He was just the name that was big at the time and star power for this show. And then also the end song was sung by the Japanese group Nine.
Yes.
And they also appeared in the anime as themselves.
Yes.
As schoolgirls.
Yes. And it's not really a good payoff when you get to the end, but they're in there.
And unbelievably, this was actually put on a Blu-ray DVD in 2018.
Blu-ray?
Now, what bothers me about that is this was pretty awful. And there are shows that are much better that people are waiting to be put on DVD. But someone took the time to put this on
DVD.
A DVD.
Right. This gets on DVD. And probably end up finding it someplace like we did with Stan Lee's Mighty Seven. So probably they haven't found it there yet. Oh my goodness.
If anyone actually bought it.
Right. Does anyone know what's on DVD?
Why was this put on DVD?
Right.
So the plot that we gave you is really it.
That is it,
An event happens and people get superpowers. Similar to the CW Flash and other DC
like an event,
and Marvel shows, X-Men.
Right.
And that is the plot of the show. There is absolutely nothing else going on in the show. It's a bunch of things happening each episode.
And they're trying to tell you it's a plot going on.
With poor animation. And poor lines written for these poor BAs.
And the thing about the animation is that when I was hearing about it, the one source I actually found out someone talking about is that they wanted to look, before it became the thing, like Spider-Verse mastered, was that it looked like a moving comic book. Not stop motion, which it looks like, but it looks like comic style. And they were trying to go for the heavy shadows like Hellboy uses in the early comics. A deep use of dark shadows with a little bit of color to make it look like it's inked paper. But when you watch it, I'm not sure if that's actually what I'm looking at.
And part of the problem is it's all dull and dark colors.
You gotta turn up
There's
the
no
light.
brightness to this anime. No bright colors at all. And if you wanted to look like a comic, why in the heck would you not use any bright colors whatsoever?
Exactly. And then the anime is taking place here in the U.S. And they do go back and forth between there and Japan when they're talking about the 9 group. And the hilarious part is that he did a Horikoshi. And to remind you that they are in America, the American flag is plastered all over Times Square. It's like nobody puts up the flag this much. Why does anime keep thinking everything is red, white, and blue?
Well, Stan Lee should have known better. And he still did it too.
Why? It's like, you live here!
So we've covered some other series that Stan Lee has done in movies and mangas and books, and the best thing that has come out of Stan Lee is the Marvel Universe before it was destroyed by Disney, and Heroman. Those are the best 2 things he's ever come up with.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, everything else we've watched has been disappointing or let down, and everything he made, of course, couldn't be a hit. But it was almost like he kept throwing things out with ideas that were unfortunately outdated.
Or undercooked.
And people were like, it's Stan Lee, okay. He's paying, okay. And they allowed him to do it. What I understand are the people he paired up with, why they did not try to steer him in the right direction and make something that was going to be actually a good watch or a good read. And I think in that instance, he was taken advantage of, and that's unfortunate.
And there were a few ideas he had beside Reflection that were good ideas, but failed. Like, we saw one called Superhero Kindergarten, and it was about someone, Arnold Schwarzenegger getting powers, he loses them, and these children get it, and he got to teach them how to use it.
And it's kindergarten animated.
Right. And then they got a villain that used to be his nemesis teaching another group of kids with powers to be villains. And they said, you're going to grow up to fight these kids one day, so I'm going to train you.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yes. It actually said that 2 groups of kids being trained to fight each other when they get older by the heroes and the villains that work against each other. He actually came with a fantastic idea, and unfortunately he passed. So what they did with it was absolutely nothing.
Right.
And the Reflection seemed to be the victim that were making a more serious X-Men-esque show with a comic book style. It failed because the storyline they came up with trying to find the source, like there's this big bad guy that's trying to bring in certain people together, including this girl's sister with powers for a special reason. By the time you get to the end, it still feels unsatisfying.
Now, unfortunately, the best 2 things out of this show and why we kept watching is 1, Vic Mignogna.
Yes.
And we wanted to hear what other voice actors we know.
Right.
That went to crap.
And some of those.
And 2, we were hoping that the show would get better.
Right.
And we stuck through it for 12 episodes, and we just knew, okay, well, maybe the last episode, they're going to pull out all the stops. No. It was just disappointing from beginning to end.
Oh, yes. We definitely got to bring up the end. They built this all up to where the bad guy who looks like Kurogiri brings these characters together, absorbs their powers, and he's going to take over the world. Well, not only was the fight scene anticlimactic, the 9 group comes in and tries to help, but they couldn't do anything, so they build it for nothing. They don't speak English, so Americans are talking to them, and they say, I can't understand what he's saying. I know he said our name, but I don't know what he's saying. It's like, how the heck are you here then? And then it ends like you think everything's back to normal, and then they have the audacity to end with a cliffhanger that a bigger kaiju level threat was coming. He said, to be continued, never.
Kaiju number 8. So yeah, it's terrible. Do we advise you to watch it? No.
No.
Do we recommend you watch it? No. If you want to see something just out of curiosity, go ahead. But it's not going to get better. It's not interesting. It's pretty awful. And quickly we're going to go through with you the character names and the voice actors. And these really bad names and bad designs.
Yes, please listen closely.
So, here we go. The main character, of course, as we mentioned, was Exxon. Voiced by Vic Mignogna. Sounds like a gas station.
Yeah.
And his ability was to absorb powers from Reflected. But it's not one himself.
I don't know how that works.
He's Monoma.
He's a
And
mirror.
really, when you're looking at some of these characters and thinking about their powers, it's obvious that either Stan or Hiroshi took some of these characters from MHA.
Yes.
It's obvious. Like that one is Monoma.
Yes, pretty much.
Okay, then you got Eye Guy.
That's a Ben 10 alien.
Voiced by James Kirby.
It's a Ben 10 alien who looks like Sky High.
And Izette had a hit song with Sky Show.
Who the heck is
And has now given him a superpower voice that he combines with a super suit.
Oh my gosh, yes, this is real.
Then we have Eleanor Evans, and you know Stanley loved alliteration. Voiced by Maria Icy.
Yes.
And Aviva Pressman in English. So I'm only going to give the English. She's a journalist who can teleport over short distances.
Oh,
we mean
gosh.
short, like down one stair at a time. Out the corner, from where she's standing to the car. We are not joking.
That's literally her powers taking an extra step.
Then we have Lisa Livingston, voiced by Talia Sindel. And you'll notice most of these people we're not familiar with.
Yeah.
And she was Wheels!
Yes, Wheels!
And she's able to transform into a giant robot.
Wheels!
Powered by her imagination. And you know what? It sounded so cool, right?
Yes, it did!
Because, oh my gosh. And it sucked.
Yeah, she turned to nothing else but the robot. It had to be limited to her.
And it was a
being
badly
in a chair.
drawn robot.
It's so much so you couldn't tell what it was half the time.
Then you have Michael Holden, voiced by Arthur Romeo, and he was blinded by the event. And the only thing he can see are other people who are reflected.
And that could have worked like a seeing eye dog for only the power.
Yes.
Possibly, but they didn't do anything with that.
Vi Lee, voiced by Saki Miyata, Michael's wife, who was transformed into a darkness reflected. Don't ask.
Don't.
Then we have Wraith, or Ethan Evans, voiced by Demetrius Conley Williams as Wraith, and Zachary Rice as Ethan.
Yes.
And he's the leader of the Darkness Reflected.
Oh my God.
He has the ability to project into Eleanor's mind.
Shouldn't it be
So
good?
only she can see him. But she can just look in front of her and see him, so we're not sure what the point was.
I don't know. Dark reflected.
We have, and here's a brilliant one for you guys.
Yes.
Steel Ruler, voiced by Yasmina Shaw. And she's able to manipulate metal.
Oh my God.
It's top a phone.
Yes.
We have Mr. Mystic,
Oh man, that one.
who appears in his own story as a villain. Yes, Stan Lee looks exactly like Stan Lee, and unfortunately very bad lines.
It's like no inflection. I'm sorry. It should have been a cool thing, but it wasn't.
And
That was the worst
lines
cameo.
were so bad and so outdated, and I felt so bad saying these things because it was Stan Lee, but it was terrible. It would have been better if he was going to design this character. One, it didn't look like him. And two, the character only appeared maybe in one episode.
Right.
But he was
perfect.
constantly a part of his own series. And that's one of the drawbacks to most other things Stan Lee has created.
Yeah.
The last few, Flaming Fury, and we know that came from Tiger and Bunny.
Yep.
Layla Burzins, voices it. And she manipulates fire. Again, we know that's from Tiger and Bunny.
Oh yes, Fire Emblem.
Thank you. Volt Vortex.
Yes.
Voiced by Michael Ornstein.
Volt. What the
He
heck?
manipulates electricity.
And a vortex.
Dead Wing.
That's a transformer.
Voiced by Aaron Fromm. And he has the appearance and abilities of a bat.
Yes.
Con Man. Voiced by Zachary Rice.
Zach.
With the power to cause others to hallucinate.
That is not a con.
Through, THRU, voiced by
Through?
Matthew McCallum, and the power to pass herself and others through solid objects. So yes, you had a character that was part of the LGBT community.
Yes.
And Ninth Wonder, which is the group 9, voiced by themselves, and they're a quartet of Japanese schoolgirls reflected.
Yes.
And they really couldn't do much.
Yep.
Now, unfortunately, there was also a 21-track soundtrack called The Reflection Wave 1.
What? Wave
There
1?
was going to be another one. And it was released in the US, UK, and Japan. And the end theme, sung by 9, called Sun, Sun, Sunrise, not kidding,
Yes.
appears on it. I'm afraid to hear the rest of it because another thing that wasn't good about the series was the songs, the music.
No. I mean, the end credits kind of sounded catchy, but none of the music fit for the show. The thing opened up on this superhero X-Men style opening song, and then it ends with this K-pop style song, on those J-pop, and then throughout the series, there is no music.
I was going to say, you're right. The opening gave you the illusion that it was going to be interesting. Because it was like a comic book, and the music did sound good with the opening. So you were fooled into thinking, okay, this is going to be good. It's going to be some epic action happening here. Storylines. No, it's a lie.
Pretty much.
So if you have seen the reflection, and I'm really sorry if you have, let us know in the comments. Did you like it? And if you did, please tell us why. What we may be missing.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, unless you just really are curious, don't watch this. It's just not worth the time and energy. We watched it so we could tell you about it. Like others say, we watched it. No, you don't have to.
Right. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates. It will give you the anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for joining us today. Subscribing, sharing our videos, and comments, and so much more.
Yeah.
As always,
you are special. Thank you so much for watching. Mask Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
選ばれてしまった